Hello everyone, welcome to session number 38. This session is on another important spectroscopic technique, that is NMR, or nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. I think principles of NMR is quite new for you, so most of you have not studied what exactly the principle of NMR is. So what do you understand by reading this term, nuclear magnetic resonance? So the term nuclear indicates that it is something to do with the nucleus. Okay, magnetic indicates something to do with the magnetic field. And resonance, this term is already known for you because even in IR absorption take place, you know it. There will be resonance. So nuclear magnetic resonance, this spectroscopy deals with the nucleus of any atom or nuclei, collective nuclei of molecules. Okay, this spectroscopy deals with nucleus, not with the electrons. So how can we understand the principle of NMR? You know, each nuclei or each nucleus consists of proton and neutrons. And you know, protons are charged, actually they are neutrons, though they are charged, this neutral, the one, you know, you can consider it as the neutron and proton together, you can call it as nucleus together, it is charged. Okay, as a whole it is charged. Now when you consider this something as charged, then it can generate some kind of field. Okay, so now to understand what exactly the behavior of nucleus is, you just compare it with a teeny magnet, small magnet. You know, small magnet which consists of north pole and south pole, they rest as per the earth magnetic field. Okay, north and south, opposite to this north and south respectively. So that south part of earth and north part of magnetic pole will rest in one direction. You know it already. I think it's a very common and very simple experiments which you performed at primary school level. And when you apply an external magnetic field, now suppose the teeny magnet, if you consider a nucleus, or you just consider a teeny magnet, it is resting like this. Now you apply magnetic field or a bar magnet, the external one, you keep it like this. What happens? See, north and south, here it is south and north. Now north will go to this side, south will go to this side. This is what it happens, correct? They will try to arrange in this way. So once they got arranged this way, now lower energy, this is more stable because this is more stable now. So this is how it comes to rest. Now if you want to rotate this, see, this is the equilibrium position. North is towards south, south is towards north. Now this is an external magnetic field, bar magnet. This is the small magnet which is kept inside. Once you apply this, it will come to this position. Now to change this direction, that is N to this side, S to this side, what you have to do? You have to apply certain external force. So that you can apply in the form of radiation. Okay, and that falls in radio waves. Okay, radio wave radiation, magnetic electromagnetic wave which falls in radio wave, which falls in the energy of radio waves. Okay, that much higher wavelength is enough to match with the magnetic field of the nucleus, or it has to match with that much energy which is required for that, from Ns to this Sn. Okay, to do this you need external energy. Now you have applied energy, this has changed its spin. Okay, this is what the principle is. So in the absence of external magnetic field, they can rest as per its direction. It may be earth gravitation, whatever. All the nuclei, they rest as per the stability. Now when you applied external magnetic field, most of them will align with the magnetic field. Some of them go opposite to the magnetic field. They can align either this way or this way. Most of them, they will be in the direction of the magnetic field, and one or two very few nuclei will be opposite to the magnetic field. You can see it here. So this is when you apply the magnetic field, okay, most of them will be in the direction of the field and one few will be opposite to the field. The one which is opposite to the field will be having higher energy. One which is in the direction of the field aligned, they are in the lower energy state. So to understand better what exactly happens, how exactly nuclear rotates and how exactly nuclear exists, you can go through this spinning top. Okay, I think this you already know. A spinning top, when you put a spin top on Earth, this is how it rotates. You must have experienced. What is the reason for it? It's because of Earth moves like that. Okay, it is not circular, it is elliptical orbit which creates. It is because Earth moves like that, there will be gravitational pull, so that's why it precesses. Okay, this is called precession. So it won't go in the circular fashion, it will go like this. It will rotate along with that and it will produce this kind of orbit, that is elliptical or elliptoidal or elliptical orbit, that is quite in this form, and it's because of Earth gravitational pull. And it, of course, it produces spin angular momentum, and this frequency, it goes through certain frequency that is called Larmor frequency. We will come to that bit later. So first we will see, hope you have understood. If you have not understood, please try to read this again, because nuclear, very very simple way I will explain. The nucleus or the nuclei of a molecule behave like small magnets. Okay, small magnets. In the absence of magnetic field, they external magnetic field I am talking about. And if you want to understand the nucleus more closely, nucleus also rotates. That's what they rotate about itself, and they also rotate in other direction, translational, vibrational, rotational, all those kind of energy they are associated with. So they also move in the random fashion, but initially in the absence of external magnetic field, they arrange randomly. But in the presence of external magnetic field, now there are two options. One is in the direction of the magnetic field, or some may be opposite to the direction of the magnetic field. This is the way they can arrange. Okay. Now in the direction of the magnetic field, if they arrange like this, now this will be in the stable state. Now if they are against the magnetic field, if they are arranged, then it is in unstable state or higher energy level. And what exactly you do in the magnetic NMR, or what is that you are going to measure? So initially, since it is in this fashion, you put a force or apply some external electromagnetic field that is in the form of radio waves. You change the direction from here to here, and when you remove the external field, it will come back to this position. Okay, because this is unstable. S is phasing S, N is phasing N. It will come back to initial position. Certain energy is released. Okay, that energy will be measuring. That is spectroscopy. Okay, whatever the energy level or the energy emitted will be measured, or energy absorbed will be measured. Either energy absorbed or energy emitted you can measure. That is nothing but what is that spectroscopic characteristic. Okay, or the spectrum is arisen because of that. This is what the precession of the nuclei I spoke about, and these are magnetic characteristics of the nucleus. Nucleus exhibits magnetic characteristic on a smaller scale. That's what nucleus acts as a small magnet. Okay, this is what you have to understand. Nuclear magnetic properties influenced by spin and charge distribution. Okay, nuclear spin of the proton, which has a unit positive charge, produces a magnetic dipole. They have magnetic field opposite direction, approximately in the same strength as the proton. Okay, neutrons you are talking about, they also have magnetic field of opposite direction and approximately the same strength as the proton. Similar to proton, they also have magnetic field. The magnetic moment describes the magnetic field characteristic of the nucleus. Okay. Now this is where, just focus on it. This is where the actual spectrum, how you exactly get nuclear magnetic resonance spectrum, that concept comes here. I already explained partially. Now you see here, this is, if you consider as one small magnet, this is the external magnet, I mean the external magnetic field you have applied with a big magnet. This is small tiny magnet. In the equilibrium position, suppose we applied magnet from both the side, and here is the magnet, and they rest like this, okay, because S will place N here, N will place S here. Now you add energy, because you want to rotate this, okay, to the, or you want to flip, you want to change the spin. What you have to do, you have to add energy. Energy can be anything. Suppose if it is a magnet, you can just pull it like this, right? You can pull it and bring N to closer to N, south closer to south, okay, north, south, closer, you pull it, okay. Then what happens, you release the energy, again it will come back to the same position, right? It can't remain like that. You must have experienced, I think in the primary school you must have done this experiment. You bring two magnets, big magnets, one which is pivoted, that is NS, which rest. Now you bring it here, N and S, I mean this way it will settle first. Then you change the field, okay. Every time this will go to N and S, S and N, NS, they come in the equilibrium position, they rest like this. Now you rotate the center one, okay, and hold it for some time, because you have applied a force, external force, okay. You keep it like this. Now you release the force, leave it, it will come back to its original position, correct? This is an experience, I mean quite normal experience with the magnetic field. This is what we have done. Okay, what happened here? It has come back to its lower energy state. While coming back, energy will be released. Whatever that energy you have applied, that energy will be released. That energy will be recorded. That will be the characteristic of a nucleus. Okay, because this energy will be different for different nuclei. It won't be same for all the nuclei. Whatever that energy you are applying, each nuclei will be having different energy based on its environment, based on various properties attributed to that molecule. It may be electronic factor, other nuclear factor, and there are so many factors which come into picture, and because of that each nucleus will be having characteristic, okay. Suppose one particular nuclei having OH, and one particular nuclei of aromatic compound and aliphatic compound, alkenes, they all have their characteristic energy absorption, okay. And this energy, whatever you have applied here, I have shown you that you are applying with a hand, I mean force you have applied. This energy you can apply in the form of radiation, correct? In NMR what happens, here you have applied magnetic field, and in nuclei coming to this position, and you apply energy in the form of radiation, electromagnetic radiation, and that electromagnetic radiation falls in the region of radio wave, okay. And that energy you have applied in the form of radiation, remove the energy, it will come back to the original state. Now you measure the spectrum, either energy released or energy absorbed, you can measure, and that characteristic energy will be characteristic of that particular energy will be characteristic of that nucleus. Measure it and you can find what type of nucleus it is. This is what NMR is, okay. In simple words I explained it. So this is what happens. See, this syllabus is restricted to proton nuclear magnetic resonance, HNMR. It's also called HNMR, proton nuclear magnetic resonance, because proton is also a nucleus, correct? We are considering only protons here, because there are different type of nuclei. There are chlorine, bromine, all these nuclei are there. So we are restricting ourselves only to protons, okay. This is what is spinning charge proton, and this is how it rotates. It generates precessional orbit, okay, applied magnetic field, and it will start precessing. Okay, you have already seen this spinning top. So this is what it happens. It is because of Earth gravitational. Now it is in the presence of external magnetic field. This is how it precesses and produces elliptical orbit. And whatever that precession is there, that orbit, whatever it creates, that is called precession orbit, and the frequency with which it precesses is called Larmor frequencies. Okay, we will come to that. And this precession, whatever you get, that is called Larmor frequency. It's also, you can call it as angular frequency. So this is what is shown here. In the absence of applied field, it rotates in one particular fashion, and when you apply particular field, external magnetic field, they either precess in the direction of the field or it will be in the opposite direction of the field. So in the direction, opposite direction. You can see it here, external magnetic field, it is in the direction of the field, it is in the opposite direction of the field. So you can see it here. So energy gap, there will be an energy gap. Now we have two states. One is in the opposite direction, which is at higher energy. One is in the direction of the magnetic field, that is lower energy. Now this energy, whatever is required from here to here or from here to here, that is called energy gap. Okay, that energy gap, if you want to do, if you want to transfer from here to here or here to here, correspondingly here to here, you have to supply some energy. So that energy will be characteristic of this nucleus, and whatever that energy released or absorbed, you can measure, and that will be characteristic of that nucleus. That is nothing but that is how you will get NMR spectrum. Okay, you can see it here, minus half plus half. These two states, once you got the energy states, then you'll be having spectrum. Okay. Now this, how much the difference takes place, the separation, that depends on how much magnetic field you have applied, external magnetic field. Energy separation will increase if you increase the magnetic field, because if you increase the magnetic field, what happens, they are strongly placed in equilibrium position. To change from north to south, south to north, you have to apply higher energy, correct? You need higher energy. So the energy difference also increases when you increase the external magnetic field. There is something called nuclear magnetic spin quantum number. I think quantum numbers we have already studied in the previous classes, maybe one in PUC, like Azimuth-Law quantum number, principal quantum number, spin quantum number, all these things. This is nuclear magnetic spin quantum number. Okay, this is associated with the nucleus. Remember, these are experimentally determined. There is no hard and fast such rule to make out or to determine the I value. This is designated as I. But there are some generalized rule whether you can make out whether I is the half integer or it is a full integer. Okay. This is a very important rule to calculate I or to predict the value of I. See, atomic mass and atomic number you have to see. Okay, atomic mass is odd, atomic number is also odd, then it is half integer. If atomic mass is odd, this is even, then it is also half integer. If atomic mass is even, atomic number is odd, then it is full integer. These are some of the examples. If both are even, then it is 0. If it is 0, then it is not at all NMR active. Okay, I should be either half integer or full integer. So you can remember some of these rules like this, atomic mass and atomic number. Certain examples, spin quantum number, that is I 3 by 2, 1 by 2, 1, and 0 for this kind of this, because both are even. Atomic number as well as mass number. Atomic number is 6 here, mass number 12. Atomic number is 8 here, mass number is 16. Atomic number is 16 here, mass number is 32 for sulfur. So for them both are even, so it is 0. Another best way is, if you are getting confused, this is what I remember. I don't bother about atomic mass and atomic number. I directly will look for number of protons and number of neutrons. Okay. If number of protons and number of neutrons both are even, then it is magnetically, NMR inactive. Okay. If one of them is odd, okay, other is even, then it is half integer, either 1 by 2, 3 by 2, 5 by 2, like that. Okay, see it here. Number of protons odd, number of neutrons even, so half. and here it is, this is even, this is odd, again it is half. You can look for these examples here. So these are all magnetically, I mean NMR active, and if both are odd, then it is full integer, either 1, 2, 3 like that. These are also NMR active. Okay, when they will be NMR inactive if both are even, that is number of protons and number of neutrons. I think you know how to find out number of neutrons and protons. Suppose 12C is there, so now 12 is the mass number. Carbon in number of protons are 6, number of neutrons 12 minus 6, it will be 6. So 6, 6 both are even, so it is 0. This is the best way to remember. In case of 11B, okay, number of protons and neutrons you have to find out. That is 6, 5. So one of them is odd, another one is even here. So 5 protons here and 6 neutrons. So what happened? This is even, this is odd. One of them is odd, one of them is even. So now it will be half integer. That means it is 3 by 2. So remember 1 or 2 examples, because it is easy to remember, like for fluorine 19F and hydrogen and 31Pe, it is half. Okay, 11B 35Cl, you can remember 79Br, they are 3 by 2. Okay, and 13 carbon, it is 1 by 2. Okay, 2 hydrogen, that is this is 1. Okay, this is an easy way of remembering some of the values, and to know whether it is half integer or full integer, and to know whether certain nuclear NMR are active or not. And these are experimentally determined values. So you can see the energy levels based on this quantum number. Remember, for a given quantum number I, there will be 2n(I) plus 1 allowed energy levels. If suppose it is half, then it is one proton and half, suppose. Then it is 2 into half plus 1, that is 1 plus 1, it is 2. That is minus I to plus I, minus 0, minus 1, 0, plus 1. I think this concept you already know how to write this quantum numbers for each particular state. For I is equal to 2 for fluorine, so 2n(I) plus 1. So for fluorine it is I is, you know, I is how much it is. For fluorine I is equal to 3 by 2. Okay, if you substitute I is equal to 3 by 2, n is equal to 1 for 1 fluorine, then it is 3 by 2. So 3 plus 1, it will become 4. So 4, what are those? Minus 3 by 2 to plus 3 by 2. Minus 3 by 2, minus 1 by 2, plus 1 by 2, plus 3 by 2. Plus 1, 1 you have to add here up to this. So these are the energy levels, different energy levels. And selection rule is delta I is equal to plus or minus 1. And as I already told you, Larmor precession and Larmor frequency. So the frequency with which precession of the magnetic moment of an object about an external magnetic field, that is Larmor precession, and Larmor frequency, it is the frequency with which the magnetic object possesses about its own axis with an angular frequency when an external magnetic field is applied. Okay, that frequency with which it rotates is called Larmor frequency. Larmor precession is that phenomenon in which it precesses about the external magnetic field. It's a process. Okay, and this is the energy required. This derivation you can remember here. The energy, if B0 is the applied magnetic field, the energy of absorption is given by delta is equal to F into B0. F is the angular momentum, and if you consider gamma, that is gyromagnetic ratio, you need to consider, because it is characteristic of each nucleus based on gyromagnetic ratio. Delta E becomes F gamma into B0. But you know, energy of absorption is given by h nu. H nu is equal to E is equal to h nu, you know. That h nu is equal to F into gamma into B0, it has to become. So h nu is equal to gamma into, so the angular momentum is quantile, we know it. F is equal to h over 2 pi. Substitute here, it becomes gamma into h over 2 pi into B0. So nu is equal to gamma divided by 2 pi into B0. So the absorption occurs when nu is equal to gamma. So this is okay. The very simple way we want to tell. So this gamma is the frequency with which it rotates. Okay, and nu is the frequency of the external radiation, electromagnetic radiation. Here it is radio wave. When the frequency of external electromagnetic radiation is equal to frequency of the precession, that is Larmor frequency, then the resonance occurs. Because of this resonance, it is called nuclear magnetic resonance. In the frequency of absorption equals the Larmor frequency, resonance occurs. Okay, please refer Pavia book for better understanding. And the energy level population or spin population. See what you understand in the energy level population. I think you must be knowing Boltzmann equation, energy distribution. Okay, at certain temperature there will be energy state. As I already told you, when an external magnetic field is applied, some will align in the direction of the field, some will be opposite. But at a bit higher temperature, what happens? Most of them are already in the higher state. Okay, and some are in the lower state. Now, what is required for energy absorption? Maximum should be in the lower state. Then energy absorption will take place. They will go to higher state, and after releasing the energy, they have to come back to ground state. But most of them, since they are in the higher state, so only few nuclei are at the lower temperature. At lower level. You can calculate based on this equation, Boltzmann equation. N upper divided by N lower is 0.991. That means what? There are only 9 extra nuclei in the lower state. Okay, there are only few nuclei in the lower state, excess population. The extra nuclei will be responsible for absorption. Okay, whatever that extra nuclei which is present in the lower state, they will be responsible for absorption. Then only absorption will take place and will go to higher level. You can see here, as you increase the frequency, excess nuclei in the lower state will increase. Why? Because as I already told you, when you increase the external magnetic field, then what happens? Energy suppression will also increase. If the energy suppression will increase, more and more will remain at the lower state. So that's what energy level population is. Energy level population is nothing but the one which is responsible for the absorption of electromagnetic radiation. Okay, that number of nuclei which will be responsible for the absorption of electromagnetic radiation. Okay, and those will increase if you increase the external magnetic field, and if you decrease the temperature, that will increase. That's why NMR is done at very low temperature, because energy population has to be maintained, then only absorption will take place. These are some of the references which you can refer. Please go through a very important book, Pavia and Silverstein book, which are very useful books, and go through some of the interesting videos available on YouTube to know the better principle of NMR in a better way. Thank you for watching.